When we went to high school, the next year, the great flu epidemic broke out. And in those days, they knew so little. They had no wonder drugs. They just treated by guess and by gosh. And so they closed down all the schools, and Gus and I went home. It was at this time that Kelly came to Vernal for the very first time on some work right after Christmas. And we had met the man that was the chief engineer on the job. And he said to us, "I'm bringing a friend of mine out here to work, and you'll like him. He's nice." Of course, I never dreamed that he would like me. So he said, "Gus, will you accept a date to go to this big dance with him? And I'll vouch for him. He's a fine man." She said, "Surely, I'll go with him. I'll be glad to, because my boyfriend's up at Logan going to school." Well, I decided I would not meet him, because I wouldn't let him know that I was her sister. Elva, our brother Carl's girl, was in Salt Lake to school. So Carl, being a big man, even though young, always formally invited me to go to dances with him. We went to the dance, and I laughed and said, "Gus is here with a new boyfriend, but I don't want to meet him, and I'm not going to dance with him," and so kind of guide me away from him. Now, Carl and I love to dance together, and so we just got to laughing and having fun. All at once, I met a tugging at my sleeve. "I want you to meet my sister," said my sister Gus. And I turned around and just broke out laughing, and of course accepted the introduction. And so I found out Father, too, was quite a wonderful dancer. He didn't seem to mind that I was a big girl. He was just as friendly and warm as could be. I only lost 2 girlfriends for the years we went together from then on. They didn't speak to me because they had ideas of their own, but I swear it wasn't my doings. We had such a wonderful time together, and we often met with the Garn friends that had introduced him to us and had dinner with them. We had a long correspondence course because Kelly only was there a few months until the state road transferred him to other parts of the state. And so we had to keep our courtship by correspondence. And that's a test of truth faith. Kelly said that there was quite a little depression on while he was there, right after World War I. And he said he was only allowed 1 bucket of coal a night, and that he could only come over 2 nights a week. We've laughed and had a lot of fun about that. One night as we sat reading a magazine a Sunday night, our home was the old-fashioned kind that had transoms over the door. I just felt someone looking through that transom, and so did Kelly. And we looked up, and both Harold and Clive burst out laughing. They didn't know we couldn't really see their faces. We looked right in their faces, though, and they thought they were caught. So they came in and confessed that they had decided to spy on us. We laughed and said, "We're having conjoined at home tonight." For the church in the Mutual used to have conjoint on Sunday night, the first Sunday night of the month. And sometimes they were pretty dull. We wrote together for about 4 years. And Kelly one time was working for the power company in Price, and the roads got so muddy and bad that they closed down for a week. So he called me up and said, "Would you like me to come over for a few days?" Oh, I couldn't believe that any young man would want to come that far in this kind of weather to see me. But I told him yes, I'd love to have him come. He came over, and they had a terrible time getting through. The mud was so deep. And the driver of the stage said to him, "Would you believe it? One of these men is going to Vernal to see a girl." And Kelly said, "No, is that true?" And he said, "It sure is." He confided in me that it was true. We've often laughed about that. He just said I just made up my mind he'd never find out that that's just why I was going too. We just accepted because our father and mother lived the gospel and accepted those truths to be true. Kelly had had to earn his own living since he was 10 years old, and his work had taken him to his uncle's ranch, to Logan, to Morgan, and had not been able to be active all the time in church, even though he was a baptized member. And so I had made up my mind through much prayer that he was the man I wanted to marry, but that I would have to forego temple marriage until he was prepared to go, but that I would do my best to live the gospel and to always have it first and foremost in my life and be prayerful about it. And I knew the time would come when he would take me to the temple. When we had been married 15 years and had our lovely family, he decided that he was now ready to take me to the house of the Lord. That was a beautiful and joyful day in my life. And from that day to this, it has been a joy to our hearts.